Welcome to HealthTech Hustle. We exist to share stories of the brave entrepreneurs helping to solve the most important problems in digital health today. We interview top leaders in health tech and bring them onto our show each week to listen and learn from their story. With your host, Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of HealthTech Hustle podcast. Today, I'm joined by another awesome guest, Mr. Irewole Akande. He is an engineer and an entrepreneur. He's also the co-founder and chief technology officer of a company called City Health Tech. So I'm excited to have him on today and kind of pick his brain and allow him to share his story and what they're doing in the industry. So with that being said, Irewole, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thank you so much, Rodney. It's so great to connect with you. And I'm super excited to, engage with our listeners to see how far we've come with our path at City Health Tech.
No problem. So why don't we just jump into it? Why don't you give a brief background of who you are and kind of how you got into the health tech industry, what you're currently doing?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm originally from Nigeria. I actually moved to the US about 8 years ago to pursue my degree in engineering management and electronics engineering from the Illinois Institute of Technology. So while I was there, I specialized in a lot of electrical engineering, and I did a few internships, right? So after my time there, I actually launched my full-time career with WPG Americas in the semiconductor distribution world. It was actually while I was there, I sort of found rediscovered my passion for entrepreneurship, right? I tell people I'm a second generation entrepreneur because my family in Nigeria owns a company. I've worked with them for a long time. But when I got into the semiconductor industry, I started seeing entrepreneurship from a different way, right? Mm-hmm. I'm passionate about solving problems, right? I now have this electronic engineering background, as well as all of the recent releases of new electronic products. And I can actually put those two things together to create new products. And that's around the time I met Ibrahim, who is my co-founder. And Ibrahim walked up to me one day at a conference, right? I think he was a sophomore then at Northwestern, and he told me 95% of people do not wash their hands properly, right? I'm like this hotshot kid. I just graduated from college, and I'm thinking, what does this kid want now? And he tells me, 80% of diseases are spread to touch, and the correct way to wash your hand is for at least 20 seconds, which is the equivalent of singing the Happy Birthday song twice, right? I'm from Nigeria. I had never heard that before, right? Yeah. But I consider myself a power hand washer. So that day I went home and I picked my phone out and I timed myself, washed my hands, ended up being only 12 seconds. And I washed my hand for 20 seconds and I realized, damn, that was a long ass time, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, I have to hit this kid up because we might be onto something here, right? So I call him and I'm like, hey, I'm going to come by Northwestern. I'm going to see what your team is working on and let's see how we can go. This was about 2.5 years ago. And since then, the rest has been history. So we've been working on it for the last 2.5 years.
Awesome. And so now it's crazy that this whole idea started based off of a friend telling you you're not washing your hands properly and then just bringing awareness to sanitation and how diseases are spreading. And from there, you guys were able to identify wow, this is actually a serious topic of discussion. Let's see how we can further take this and turn this into something. And so fast forward to where you guys are now. And I'm looking at your website. There's a lot of awesome things, but I kind of want to talk about this Opal device that you guys have and what exactly is that and how is that helping?
Yeah, certainly. So our first device, City Health Tech, we tell everyone, and if you see on our website, we tell you that we are committed to the eradication of preventable diseases by promoting healthy hygiene, right? Mm-hmm. That's our big goal. Our first product, right, is Opal. And what exactly is Opal, you might ask? So Opal is actually a small connected device that sits right beside your faucet. It detects once a user puts their hand in the washing hand basin or under the faucet, and it actually educates you on how to wash your hands properly, which means the right technique, and it engages you to wash your hands for at least 20 seconds. So it is two-pronged, right? The first thing it does is that it actually shows you, hey, wash around your thumbs, wash your fingertips and all of that. That's the first thing. And then the second thing is that like it actually engages you. So everyone thinks of hand washing as a passive activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just finished in the bathroom. I want to wash my hand. I do the next thing, right? What Opal does is it makes it an active participation, right?
Okay.
It holds your attention for long enough to make sure you actually reach that 20-second mark and also make sure you're using the right technique.
Okay, so it's like engaging and educating you.
Exactly.
Keeping your attention while you're trying to
Wash your
hands and sanitize.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
Interesting. And so with your background in engineering and being the chief technology officer and co-founder of the company, what are your like day-to-day responsibilities? What's your job role?
Yeah. Okay. So my job role is interesting because I think it has shifted over time, right? So initially when we started out, I used to go by Northwestern on the weekends to work with our small team, right? So we're in an incubator called the Garage in Northwestern, and I'd go there and I'd go check out our 3D prints. I'll make sure like we're drawing out and mapping out what our electronic connection should look like, talking to suppliers, making sure we can get, prototypes in-house that we can test. That's what my task was, right? So a lot of that was putting all of those technologies together. But we sort of grown, right? We've gone from, okay, we are a group of people in a garage, literally, working on an idea. My role has sort of scaled, right? Mm-hmm. So now I'm doing a lot of, okay, I have a design right now, but what do I need to meet to make sure we make this a viable opportunity? So anyone to understand the balanced breakthrough model of innovation, right, is you have the feasibility, you have the desirability, you have the viability, right? We have proven that we can build this, right? Anyone can go online, search City HealthTech, and you can find a demo of our device, right? We know we can build the technology. So I am focused on in my day-to-day tasks right now is desirability. How many people want it? And how do they want it? So a lot of what I do in my day-to-day tasks is just connecting with a lot of elementary schools who are going to be our first target customers, talking to people in the food industry to say, hey, like we have this cool thing that we built that does anyone want to do that, to see how many people want our device. And the last thing is viability. How can we turn this to a viable business product, right? So what does that look like for me? That's a lot of meetings with, contract manufacturers, figuring out, okay, this is where my costs need to be. This is what my BOM cost needs to be. This is what I need to do. These are the strategic partnerships I have to make sure once we start going into production, we're always going to meet the expectations that the customers that we're going to have of us. So that's what a lot of my tasks are right now. So like the other 50% of what I do is just, we have a team, right? So we have an engineering team. I meet with them. We're all remote right now, so we can't work together, but I try to have like work meeting sessions, and we are basically refining our design and working on our next product. So 50% of my time is how can we turn our current product into something that makes money? And then the second half is, okay, working with my team to, okay, what do we want to work on next? And what might we have missed in the building of our first device?
Okay, interesting. And so so you have the concept and the idea of what you want to bring to the market, but before you actually go and put that out to the public, you're building these relationships and having these conversations to try to get like strategic partnerships to already build up that demand for your product, so that when you start building it, the demand is already there for your supply. Is that what I'm getting?
Exactly.
Awesome.
Exactly. So just making sure, we're talking to the customers that need this product. We're also talking to the suppliers. So by the time everything clicks, right, we have we're the bridge that makes that happen, right? So we have our design, we have our suppliers all primed and ready to go. We have our customers all primed and ready to go, and then we'll make sure we deliver them our awesome product.
Okay. So essentially, you're almost selling the idea and selling the product before you're even finished with it.
Exactly.
Okay.
So from an engineering standpoint, right, we have what most people call like an MVP or a minimum viable product or a minimum viable prototype, right? So you can see a video of us like having all of this going. But as we are looking to raise funding, right? So that's something. So we've been bootstrapping for the last 3 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now we're looking to raise funding, and for us to make sure we do that effectively, we're actually trying to close as many deals as possible with our possible customers. We already have a lot of our supplier relationships set. And now we're looking to take that next step to say, okay, let's raise money, let's deliver these devices, and let's scale to become like a full-run, like fully well-run company.
Okay. And so you kind of mentioned it when you're speaking briefly that you're talking to schools and universities. What other sort of suppliers and partnerships and conversations, what kind of people are you talking with?
Oh, we've had some really interesting conversations, right? So like I said, we've been working on this for 2 years. And initially when we started working on it, a lot of people used to look at us like, what are you guys doing? Like, it's a great idea, but do people really care? Right? With the pandemic, a lot of that has changed. So we're getting a ton of inbound. We got a message once from like a food and safety manager at McDonald's, right? That said like, yo, like I've been obsessing over hand washing for like the entirety of my career. And you guys have a brilliant idea, and we think that like this is something that could work for us, right? Mm-hmm. Just based on a lot of, the press that we're getting with the idea that we had. And this was almost 2 years down the line, right? So we're getting conversations from, office spaces, co-working spaces that say like, hey, this would be good. Like this would be a way to signal community safety for our teams as they look back to move in. If they do decide to move in, we want to make sure that they know that we care about them. And then we're trying to enable them to have the best possible, hygiene within our space. So we've had like interest from, corporate offices. We've had interest from restaurants, so that's McDonald's. We've had like Subway franchises reach out to us. We've had, I think, a law firm also reached out to us. So we've had a ton of inbound for people that actually want this device.
Nice. So you've had a lot of inbound. And so do you think that's probably the most effective way for you guys to grow at this point versus going outbound and just trying to reach as many people? Because it sounds like what you guys are focusing on is just having the quality product that solves an issue, and just people are already passionate about it. And so that's how they're finding out about you. They're reaching out to you.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think it's two-pronged, right? So when you look at the nature of what we're looking to solve, this is like a problem that affects every single person, right? So if I want to tell you right now that you need to wash your hands for 20 seconds and you actually believe in that, you can decide, I'm going to take some money, I'm going to buy the Opal, I'm going to put it in my house and wash my hands properly, right? So, but what we need to do, right, and I think this is where the conversation about viability comes in, right, is that how can you build a sustainable business process around that? Right. And for us, that is going to be initially focusing on who can pay for it right now, who does it really matter to, and then we can use that to determine where we want to go from here. Right. And for us, that is, okay, we know that schools desperately need it. Right. We know people in the restaurant industry will need it. Right. We know people that have essential staff within food manufacturing, FDA food regulated facilities, they will need it. Right. And that's sort of what we're focused on. Mm-hmm. Right. But going forward, right, we can then create a more commercially viable product that we're like, hey, we can make 1 million of these and we can sell them via an online store. We can sell it on Amazon. But right now, we actually focused on these niche markets that need it right now, so we can build a viable business model around that.
Okay. And so you said one of your main goals right now is trying to raise funding. And so the way you guys are doing that is trying to get as many clients as you can or form as many partnerships as you guys can. And that's all through inbound. And so when you're trying to raise the funding, I'm assuming you have to apply outbound methods. And so how are you guys going to go about that? And just how are you guys going to try to facilitate those conversations?
Yeah. So for us, right, we've done it in 2 ways. So actually, I'll say 3 ways. The interesting thing is that we've got some inbounds for investors, right? So we've had people that have seen it and they're like, oh, we think this would be something that would be interesting. Let's have a conversation with you. That's the first way, right? The second way is that our network. So for the last 8 years that I've been in America, and my co-founder Ibrahim too, right? We've been curating our networks over time, whether that's through LinkedIn, whether that's through our alumni networks, whether it's through our education. We've been curating our network because we always believe that at a certain point in time, we're going to need certain kinds of people to get to where we need to be. Right. So the second way we've been at is actually just introductions, right? So you had someone that was your mentor or someone that you met at like an event, 4 years ago. You've kept in touch with them. You know they're an entrepreneur. You know they do investing. You just keep talking with them. And after a while, you finally get your idea to a good place. You reach out like, hey, Mr. A, we've been talking about this. This is the idea I'm working about. I know you don't have a lot of experience with hardware. You mainly do software investing, but we have this hardware piece that we're looking at if you want to make introductions for us. And that's how we've got a lot of the initial conversations, right? So we have people in our network that we've curated over this amount of time, reaching out to people they know that might be interested in what we're doing. Right. And then the last part of it, being minority founders, just being like a part of like a community of people that is less visible within the startup space. What we've also tried to do is also do a few outbounds, right? So we go through like, okay, what are those people that understand what we're looking to do and believe in us as minorities, and how can we reach out to them? And from that, we've been able to get a very phenomenal resources from like TechCrunch, all of that. And then we actually say, okay, who will be interested in what we're doing? And we're actually sending out our pitch deck saying like, hey, this is what we're looking for. This is how much we're looking to raise. How do we get there? What do we need to do to sort of meet the criteria to get funding from you? So we are doing it in 3 ways. Like I said, we have people that are coming to us. We have people we're getting through our network, and we have the people that, we found from like gleaning information from online sources.
Okay. So yeah, a little mix of inbound, outbound, and then just your direct network. Interesting. Yeah. And so kind of want to follow up on as far as leveraging your network. Because I know a lot of people, a lot of entrepreneurs, especially within the healthcare space, they already know a lot of people, whether it's technologists or healthcare professionals or a mentor, like you said.
Yeah.
But before actually reaching out and asking them for like their help and their advice, what sort of pieces need to be in place before you feel comfortable enough to do that?
So for me personally, right, I'm an engineer, right, that not fell in love per se, but I just got this like burning passion to solve a problem within the healthcare space, right? So a lot of my experience is coming from technology and then applying on healthcare. But I think in the last year, right, what has really like changed for me was that I was laser focused on the product that we wanted to build. I wanted to make sure like the product was like feasible enough to solve the problem we're talking about. Because this is the one thing I'll tell you. A lot of industries, right, can get away with anecdotal evidence. They were like, oh, if you wear this, you work out more, you do all of these things, right? A lot of people can get away with that. But once you get into healthcare, right, we realized we needed to do just a little bit more, right? Because we're going to be talking about how we want to impact people's lives, how we want to impact like the community as a whole. And for that, right, we needed to make sure our product met every single layer of what we're talking about, right? So we made sure we validated the problem. After we validated the problem, we got statistics that validated that problem. We made sure we were able to come up with a solution that we believe will effectively solve that problem. By the time you get to that point where you have a solution and possibly a product, right, that's a great time to start having those conversations. So for us, we didn't just say like, oh, we have an idea, we think it's a good idea, and we're just going to start hitting everyone up to make sure everything happens, right? We went through that process of really understanding our problem, because when you go into a conversation with people in your network, people outside of your network, right, you want to make sure you've thought about the things they ask you about, right? So you go, when I go into a conversation and someone tells me like, oh, can't you just integrate it into the faucet? I want to have thought of that. Right? Why are you using cellular technology versus Wi-Fi technology? You want to have thought of that, right? Because that way you create a little bit more viability in your ability to actually get the job done. Because if you go in with an idea that is a little half-baked, or you don't really understand the problem, or you don't really understand the solution that you're putting forth, then you will struggle with having that respect as an entrepreneur. And I think that's where we were really able to get to a good place. We found our problem and spent an immense amount of time. I've read every study, every device out there that's done anything within the hand hygiene space. We know it. We know the entire thing back to front, because for 3 years, we've obsessed about making sure it's good. And that's why, when someone has a conversation with us, they can tell, okay, we know the passion is there. We know you both have the ability to get this done. That's why we want to make an introduction.
Okay. So just doing that little bit of due diligence and research and just to be able to dot your I's and cross your T's, and just think of any questions and objections that may arise throughout the conversation, and just putting that little bit of time and effort in the beginning to have that data and have that info ready when those conversations need to be had. That is what's kind of pushing you guys over the edge, really, giving you guys that little extra. Interesting. And so you've kind of explained throughout this whole conversation, just kind of your transformation and your guys' processes and how you guys are going about doing things, and just how you guys have been able to grow from having you develop the prototypes and talking to suppliers and all that to now having a team, which allows you to free up more of your time so you can do more higher level tasks within your business. But we all know that there's a lot of obstacles and challenges that you face in this whole entrepreneurship journey. So my next question for you is, what sort of obstacles or challenges have you faced in your journey with this company that stick out to you, and how have you been able to overcome that?
Yeah. Okay. So I think I personally am in a really unique position, right? I think maybe or maybe not, a lot of people you talk to are American, right? So I am not American. So I'm Nigerian, and I've been in the US on a student visa, right? So during my time, so I graduated from college and I had the opportunity to work full time and also start working on this idea. And I think the biggest challenge I've faced is it is really difficult, right? To sort of build your own venture as an international student, right? So this is unlike, having a ton of money in the bank or coming from a wealthy family or having all of these things already done for you, right? So when you talk about bootstrapping, you have to bootstrap to the extreme, right? So I had to work a full-time job for so many years to even be able to survive while I work on this idea.
Okay.
Right? So I worked full-time and I worked on this. And even after working full-time, you have to go through these struggles of, okay, what's the right visa to get? And then the visa process is a lottery. You don't get that visa, right? You start asking yourself, can I actually work on this idea? I've already put in 2.5 years of my life into this. Is this something that is worth doing? Right? And just doing that takes a lot of mental toll. So this is being an entrepreneur already comes with a lot of fear, right? You don't know where the next thing is going to come from. You don't know where the next deal is going to get signed. And then this is another layer on top of that, right? You're wondering about oh, am I going to do something wrong? Am I going to break the law? Are people going to even invest in my company? Would they think that me being international is too high risk, right? And that's the first part of it. And then the second part of it is also just being Black. So I'm not just international, I'm a Black international student, right? Yeah. So you go into every conversation thinking that you need to push that extra mile. You have to go that extra mile. And even when you get that extra mile, on the other end, I'm now saying that do I then need to convince them that I actually can work on what I'm doing? Because for me, right, I didn't get the visas that allow me to be able to work on the project. So I made the decision to go back to school.
Mm.
right? So I went back to school just so I have a chance to be able to stay in the US to work on my idea.
Dang,
But
that's
then
crazy.
some people might look at it like, oh, but you're getting like a second degree. Why didn't you put the money in? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I would have put the money in, but I won't be able to stay here to work on the idea. So
Yeah.
it's just like, it's not even like a chicken and the egg. It's like a live chicken, fried chicken, right? Like I can't get any, like there's no, one doesn't come before the other. Like one is either moot completely or you're in. So like for me, it's been ridiculously difficult because I'm then thinking like, okay, do I have to forego my company for it to become something, right? And that's just this constant struggle for me that like I've had to deal with.
Ah, man, that's an interesting perspective. Honestly, I've had one guest who's kind of given me like a similar answer to that, just about her being an international entrepreneur as well and being a female. But just like hearing your perspective and on how you were trying to be an entrepreneur in the States and just trying to stay in the States so you can still pursue your passion and your dream and like the different sacrifices that you had to make. That's very interesting to hear. It's a very humbling perspective, honestly.
Thank you.
But we have one more question before we finish up with the exercise I like to call rapid fire round. But before we get to that, what sort of advice would you have for other entrepreneurs in the healthcare industry?
So this is something that like I am using as like my mantra, right? And my mantra is prevention is always better than cure. Every single day of the week, every single time. I believe that like if you want to get into the healthcare industry, rather than thinking of ways you're fixing problems, you start thinking of ways to prevent those problems. I think a lot of invention, a lot of money, a lot of funding has gone to people that say, yes, we have a cure, we have a solution to something, but enough is not being done to improve the prevention, right? Of whether that's diseases, whether that's, problems that you might encounter within the healthcare space. And I think like, more should be done to that regard. So if you're someone thinking of getting into like healthcare entrepreneurship, start thinking to yourself, start asking yourself, right? What can I do that'll prevent, a huge cost to be paid, right? By one person. So if you can get 1 million people to pay $1, right, to prevent something from happening, it's better than having one person, pay $1 million to cure it. And that's what I want people to start thinking about. If you're thinking about getting into healthcare, what can you do to help prevention? What can you do to help prevention? What can you do to help prevention? Because at every point in time, it's going to be cheaper to implement that than it is to make a cure.
Okay. Awesome. I think that's a great way to end the meat section of our interview. I feel like you've done a lot about talking about your journey and the different situations and the different obstacles that you've had to overcome. So I think we should end on a little more lighter note with an exercise I like to call the rapid fire round. So I'm going to ask you a set of questions and then you just give me whatever answer you come up with, okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite book of all time?
The Alchemist, Paulo Coelho, best book ever.
Okay. Then who is the most influential person in your life or career?
I would say it can be one person, but my parents.
Okay.
My parents, yeah.
Entrepreneurs before you.
Yep, exactly. My mom is an artist, my dad's an engineer, and I got the best of both worlds.
Nice. Shout out to your parents.
Yeah.
What is one goal you want to accomplish this year?
I think the one goal I want to accomplish this year is that I want to have 1,000 of my products fully manufactured and deployed to users.
Okay. And then last one, what is one piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self?
Ooh, if I were to give my 20-year-old self an advice, I'll tell him, do it. Just, that idea you're thinking of, that thing we're working on, do it. Do it, put in the time, spend all the effort, because this isn't the first startup I'd worked on. I'd worked on several other ideas, but I always limited myself with like my perspective as an international student. So I always ended up like chickening out when push came to shove. So the advice I tell myself is that, the idea you're working on, work on it, meet people, pitch it, do every single thing to make it work, because there's no better time than now to do something.
Awesome. And I think that's the epitome of what HealthTech Hustle really is, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So that kind of ends today's episode. Wally, I just want to thank you for jumping on and just sharing your journey as, like you said, an international student trying to create his own venture, and just sharing the obstacles and really just the journey that you had to go through in order to get to where you are today. And I know it's very valuable. If I can learn something, I know many other entrepreneurs within this sector, and maybe even other sectors as well, could find value from this. So yeah, just want to say thank you for jumping on.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem. And last but not least, before you go, where could people learn more about you and your company?
Yeah, certainly. You can check us out on our website. It is cityhealthtech.com. That is cityhealthtech.com. So check us out. You can also reach out to us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all at City Health Tech, just at City Health Tech.
Awesome. And I'll be sure to include all those resources in the links below, or all those links in the resources section. But with that being said, that ends today's episode. Catch you guys next time.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of HealthTech Hustle with Rodney Hu, founder of 209 Digital. Tune in next week for another interview with an expert leader in digital health.